Is it worth it to flip a house? Are you wondering if flipping houses is really worth the effort, the time, and the risk? Let's talk about what most people don't consider before jumping all the way in. You've seen all those TV shows, but behind the scenes, it's an entirely different game. Is it worth the risk? I have flipped over 1,200 homes, and I'm going to tell you what makes this business worth it and what makes it not worth it. By the end of this video, you're going to know when flipping is worth it and when it's not worth it based on your goals, your resources, and your risk tolerance. The two main reasons that people want to flip houses are cash and freedom. Not just cash, but large chunks of cash. Our introduction into real estate investing was to buy rentals. I wanted to build that long-term wealth, which is great, but you're only going to make maybe $100, maybe $200 per month if you're lucky on a single family rental. I found myself in a tough situation in 2007, going through a divorce from my wife at the time and trying to figure out how to get out of $80,000 in credit card debt, and I had to make large chunks of cash legally, and I figured that flipping houses was the way to do that. So I, like everybody else, wanted to make a large chunk of cash to do something with. What I've discovered after 1,200 deals and having a company that still does 100 flips a year is that to successfully buy rentals on a consistent basis, you need to be good at both. Because flipping will teach you how to find off-market deals, and you'll have large chunks of cash to keep your life going while you're hanging on to the great ones as long-term rentals. So you must use both in your strategy to make it really an effective strategy. What most people really underestimate is the whole process. You see, we've got it broken down to we have to find houses, we have to fund houses, we have to fix them, we have to flip them, and then some we hold. And sometimes the gurus online make it seem like it's just so easy. Well, you don't just open up the phone book. I just dated myself there. You don't just go on Google and look for a house to buy. And you don't just go on the MLS or tell an agent, I want to buy a house at under market value. That's not how it works. To be a successful real estate investor, you have to buy the house at under market value, which means you have to go out and market and find that house that is not yet on the market. Well, that takes considerable effort and a process and a system. Now, once you set that system up, it can flow for you and people will call you on a regular basis to sell their house to them. But don't underestimate how much time and effort it'll take to get started with that. The next is funding. When you fund a house, that is not like funding a normal small investment because you're usually borrowing tens of thousands or hundreds of thousands of dollars. Now, the good news is you don't have to have your own money to do it. And most people assume that they have to have all that money because in the name real estate investor, we assume that to be an investor, we have to have money to invest. Well, that's not true at all. In real estate investing, we want to use other people's money, or OPM, and leverage our time by using their money to flip houses. By doing that, you're never out of money and you're never out of business. Again, once you set that up, it will continue to be there for you, whether you use hard money lenders or private lenders in different ways. And listen, in our channel, we go through a lot of different ways that you can fund houses, whether you use hard money, private money, how to build private money lenders. So be sure to check it out inside of our channel. Now you have to deal with fixing the property. Now, I don't want you to swing a hammer. That's not how successful real estate investors flip houses. We manage the contractors and the contracting team to get the work done for us. Now, as you can probably imagine, that is not an easy feat. Trying to manage contractors is many times like trying to herd a bunch of cats. It can be very difficult to do that. But there are processes and systems that will help you. But again, it's a little more effort than the reality TV shows make it look like. It's important that you get around the right people and have the right mentors and the right paperwork in place to make flipping a house easy and to make it worth it. Because at the end of the day, if you're going to risk your time and your money, you want to minimize your risk and you want to maximize your profit, especially because you're probably already very busy in your life and you don't want to waste your time not doing something that is going to be profitable for you. So make sure that you implement the systems I'm going to talk about. Let's talk about ROI, which means return on investment. Now, there is a net ROI, which is the actual number that you make at the end of a deal, and there is a perceived ROI, which is what people think you make. Now, usually people say, hey, if you paid $100,000 for that house and you put $50,000 in the house and you sold it for $250,000, you made $100,000. Nothing can be further from the truth because there's a lot of costs that people don't understand that go into flipping a house. Number one, you have something called holding costs. Again, in our channel, we have videos all about holding costs, but basically that is the price that you pay every day for the privilege of owning a piece of property. Things like taxes, insurance, interest payments, maintenance on the house. These are things that have to be paid for owning a house. Here's the secret. The longer you own the house, the higher the holding costs actually are. Every dollar in holding costs comes directly out of your pocket and your profit. So the longer you hold the house, the less money you'll make. Now, contractors. We talked about how contractors can be difficult, and many times they will be. Well, any delays there not only cost you in the holding costs, but it could also cost you with contractors. You may have to go find a new contractor. That may cost you more money. They may not do the work correctly or per code or per your scope of work. And if they don't, you have to redo that work again. Well, that costs money, and that is delays. Delays will cost you money in your flip. Now, I'm not trying to be a naysayer and say it's not great. I just want you to be aware that these are things you should be aware of when you're going into flipping a house, because not everything is sunshine and rainbows like HGTV makes it look like. I'm here to arm you. I want you to have everything you need and the truth about flipping houses, so when you walk in, you can feel confident about knowing I'm going to have challenges come my way, but at least I have the armor on to know how to deal with them. So if you've not done a flip yet, let's talk about your first flip. Because usually you go in there and your eyes are huge and you're so excited to make that $50, $75, or $100,000 in profit, and you tend to not look at the things that are going to happen. And on paper, it looks wonderful. But I want you to be aware that many times our first flips are flips that we learn a lot on. Now, if you don't have a coach or a mentor like us helping you through the process, you're going to have to go through what I call the school of hard knocks. You're going to pay for education one way or the other. You can either pay for it up front with the right coaching team, or you can pay for it through making these mistakes I just talked about. The only way you're going to learn many times is to go through the process. My job here is to make sure that you don't lose a lot of money, but set your expectations to say, okay, in my first flip, I want to do two things. I want to make a profit, and I want to learn what systems work for me. Don't say, let me do my first profit and not make any money. A lot of rookies make that mistake. Oh, I'll just go in there and do my first deal. If I don't make any money, that's okay. No, it's not. Not making money on a deal after working 2, 3, 4, or 6 months on it sucks. It is not fun at all to go through that process. So do not set yourself up for failure. Set yourself up for success, to be profitable, maybe not a huge profit. Shoot for $30,000 to $40,000 on your first deal, because that way if you make mistakes and you don't have coaching in it, you make a $20,000 mistake, at least you'll make $15,000 or $20,000 on the deal instead of 30 or 40, but you won't lose money. If you lose money on your first flip because you got so overzealous to go in there and just get that first flip done and get the education, if you lose money, you'll never go back. And if your spouse was involved and they lost money or saw you lose money, they won't even support you going forward. So make sure that your first flip is both profitable and in a position to educate you on as much as you can learn to be the most successful flipper you can be. My advice as your coach is that you approach real estate investing like a business, not like a side hustle. If you think about it, you are dealing in hundreds of thousands of dollars. And you say to yourself, well, I'm just going to flip one house, just a little side hustle. Do you know that some people own things like a coffee shop or a corner mini mart or a small home-based business? If they did $100,000 in top-line sales or $200,000 for the year, they'd be thrilled, and that might be their whole business. Do you know when you flip one house, your top-line sales in that business is the sale of that house? So if it's $200,000 or $300,000, that's the business you just started. And don't be overwhelmed or scared by that. Be proud of that fact. So don't treat it like a little side hustle, because the profit you can make there is significant. And so treat this like a business out of the gates, and you will find you'll be much more successful than if you just treat it like a side hustle you could just throw away. A lot of your success will come down to your mindset. I don't want you to think to yourself, I flip houses. You don't want you to think to yourself, I flip problems. Because going through a flip is really about solving problems. You are going to step into a world where you are going to get good at creative problem solving, whether it be how to find the first deal, or how to fund that first deal, or how to fix that first deal and deal with that contractor, how to sell that property, or how to turn that into an amazing rental property. So you are going to have to solve problems all along the way, and that's okay. You're willing to solve problems that other people just aren't willing to even look at, and that's why you can make an extraordinary income where other people will not make an extraordinary income. So think of yourself as a master problem solver. Flipping houses can be amazing, but Just change your mindset, be positive, have the right expectations going in, and you will be successful. So if you're asking whether flipping is worth it, the answer is it totally depends on how you approach it. The next step is for you to get crystal clear on what kind of house you're looking for. Go watch the video on the crucial step that most new investors miss. It's going to help you define the exact properties you need to be successful and profitable at flipping even your first deal. The link to that video is in the description below. Click it now.